Hello Soundies. Today we're going to continue working on the Dore. This is a lecture demonstration. It's not a tutorial clip, so I don't expect you to follow my actions, such as when we did setting up Logic Pro X for sound to picture work. It was a step-by-step guide, and I gave you time to repeat my actions so that you could create your own template for sound to picture work. This is not one of those. This is a lecture demonstration. So if you've opened up Logic Pro X, you can switch that off. I just want you to watch. This post-production process for the film is going to take the form of three parts. The first one being environmental sounds or atmospheric sounds. The second one being Foley sounds. And the third one being special effects. I like to start off with atmospheric sounds. It's kind of like painting a watercolor picture, where you sort of put in washes of color that approximate the scene that you're painting, kind of the light blues of the sky and the greens of the earth and the browns of the forest and so on, before you then actually start to sketch in the detail of the picture itself. And that's how I see environmental sounds in post-production sound design. It's those kind of washes of color that provide a certain context to the post-production sound design. So that's what I'm going to do now. So relax and just watch as I start the process for providing sound, environmental sound for this film. So I'm just going to have a little peek again at the film just to remind myself. So, I've got my list here: Atmos, woodland daytime, birdsong, insect sounds, light wind. So let's start off with this scene here. There's a bit of wind before we start putting in the footsteps. And then in this scene, in this particular shot, we're going to have more intense woodland sound. So I'm going to use library sound. And also some sounds that I recorded myself using, one second, this microphone. This is a binaural or ambisonic location sound recording device by Zoom. I'll just take the windshield off. There we go. Can you see? There's a configuration of 4 microphones or mic capsules. And it's capable of recording binaural sound, something that we'll talk about in future classes, hopefully face-to-face classes, though quite possibly online classes. It also records ambisonic. I tend to record binaural because it just records a single stereo file. Ambisonic records 2 stereo files. But the difference between stereo and binaural is the fact that stereo allows you to know where something is coming from, left or right, how far away it is, and how close it is. And we create a stereo field or a stereo picture through the combination of panning the sound to the left or to the right, and volume, which approximates distance and perspective. But it's always on a level field, yeah. With binaural sound, you can tell whether, and it's still a stereo track, you can tell whether a sound is above you or below you or behind you. Binaural sound replicates the way that we hear. We can tell if a sound is above us or below us or behind us. And we have stereoscopic hearing. And binaural imitates that. And I think binaural is going to be the way forward in terms of post-production sound design. I think 5.1 and surround sound is a bit of a dead end. 5.1 is a bit agricultural to my taste. I don't enjoy it. Binaural only works on headphones. When it plays on speakers, it just sounds like conventional stereo. But when you play it on headphones, you can get that sense of up and down and behind you. And in the past, who watched TV using headphones? Nobody really. Or radio. But they do now. You'll see them on the trains with their little earbuds in, watching rich media, watching films or clips on their phones or on their tablets. And so binaural, which is a stereo format that can be posted online without any special extra technology, I think is the way forward when we're talking about immersive sound. The ironic thing for this is that, so the opening sequence with in the field here, I'm going to see if I can use a recording that I made this morning early on in my back garden in Englefield Green for that kind of early morning natural sound. Okay, so I'm just going to go to my browser, by project I should say, audio file. We've already got the small river, remember from last time, so I'm going to go and I'm going to add the audio file, and I'm going to navigate to my sound effects library. In fact, there we go, and there should be one that there we are, Reese Binaural SFX Nature. These are recordings that I've made using this little Zoom recorder, and I'm going to try Suburban Garden Early Morning. Let's give that a try. Yeah, let's have this one here. I'm going to click to add, and I'm going to go done. Here we go. So it's just importing it now. It's quite a lot of it. There we are. So I'm just going to drag it onto my Atmos timeline. Here we go. Ooh. I never use the beginning of anything, and that sounds quite loud. What is that? There might be a bird flying away in panic. Let's have a listen. Okay, that's a bit too much, so I'm going to trim that down. By the way, this is trimming. See, I'm positioning my cursor at the bottom end of the front of the clip, and I've got this little kind of trim effect. And as you can see, the trim effect is also the playback head, so the video moves it as well. So I'm just going to drag that in, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to zoom using my resolution bars. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm just going to drag it. Remember, the beginning of the clip is the beginning, is the playback head. So I'm going to set it just into black. There we go. I could zoom out a bit, and there it is. Now, I'm going to create a little, because it fades up over black, I'm going to create a little fade in. And to do that, can you see these little icons? We've talked about them before. This is the selection tool, or left click tool. This is the command click tool, where you have to press the command button to activate it. And currently it's set to scissors. So if I position my cursor over the clip and hit the command button, can you see the scissor icon appears? I don't want scissors for this moment. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to select fade tool. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to position my cursor, let's get that out of the way, position my cursor at the top here, command tool, and then I'm just going to drag it a little bit. The longer you drag it, the longer the fade, but it's going to be a short little fade up. And that, we call that a linear fade, where imagine you're fading up the volume on an amplifier. Imagine that you're turning it at exactly the same speed across the whole of the increment from 0 to whatever level you're setting it at. And that's a little bit agricultural, and we don't do that. We start off slow, we go quicker, and then we slow as we reach the level that we want to set, and we call that an exponential fade. And I've still got my finger pressed on the command key. I'm going to position the cursor just on this linear line, and I'm going to drag it down. That's an exponential minus. That's an exponential plus. I'm going to do a little exponential minus, what I call a soft curve, and then I'm going to play it. Notice I've got the levels up quite high. Okay, I think this needs to start a bit earlier, and I think this fade needs to be a bit quicker. Let's try that. Yeah, that feels right. Just leading with the sound. Yeah, we try and, well, I'll talk about lead and lag at another time. Now, I want to play, what's these sounds here? These are all a bit... So I quite like the background, just the background. I'm going to take the level down just to see what it's like at the level that it sort of would be playing back at. I don't know if it's just me, but whenever I put sound in, it automatically adds weight to the sound design, and I can sort of hear those footsteps. You can't, there's nothing there, there's no sound signification, but I get the feeling of it. I can definitely hear a little rustle at that point. So we're now in the woods. Okay. So I'm going to, remember everything is non-destructive in the editing, so I'm going to chop it off about here. There we go. I'll stop it there. I'm going to go back and I'm going to take the fade tool out, and I'm just going to select scissors again, Command, chop. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our first little bit of environmental sound. God, it makes all the difference, doesn't it? Now all of a sudden it's mute. All of a sudden it lacks weight and relevance. As you can you see here, it's showing you the various chops and cuts I've made. I can just get rid of that a little bit. So next thing I want to do is I want to find something more kind of woodlandy. So I'm going to go to audio file, add audio file, and I'm going to go to my sound effects library. And because I've done a little bit of research, I know that some sounds in the effects, SFX, have some interesting things. Elements, we've got thunderstorms. I'll just click on the list. It's easy to see under list. Thunderstorms, rain, all of those kind of things. Sea, river, we might use, we've got a river sound, but we might change it. We're not looking for the elements. What we're actually looking for is birds, insects, animals, ambience, atmosphere. So let's give that a little look. And so what have we got? I'm going to go to the list. Woodland. Oh, that looks good. What else have we got? Sparrows, swifts. I'm going to want that. I might want some crickets. Oh, I wonder if a bit of a little cricket might be nice underneath. So I'm going to have that woodland. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add the single cricket, or crickets and flies. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add the single cricket as well. You don't have to use all of these sounds. I'm just going to have a little bit of a play. Now, what else? I was looking for, crows and jackdaws. I'm going to want those for my graveyard scene. So I'm going to add that. Is there anything else? Gathering of starlings. Ooh, that might be quite interesting. Oh, Bryn's decided to move to another spot in the studio. He has two spots in the studio. One in the corner, which I call his pit, and one underneath my rack-mounted stuff, which I call dangerous. But there we go. Anything? Oh, you can never go wrong if you shove a dog in there. So I'm just going to add that. As you can see, as I told you before in previous clips, you can collect a series of different sounds before you click done, and they will just import or add all of these audio files. So I'll just wait for that to happen. I'm going to rename this clip Atmos Environmental. Okay, so woodland. So here's my woodland. Let's have a little bit of a play of that. So let's just, again, I always trim the beginning out of clips because they tend to have little fade ups. And I like to decide, as you can see here, what fades up and what doesn't. It's also quite a lot louder. So it might be that I have to put it on a different track. But what I'm going to do, remember the beginning of the clip is the playback head. So I'm going to, and I'm going to lead a little bit. So it's going to come in around there. And can you see the auto fade? So this might not work at all. This might be much too loud. Let's have a play. No, that works. No, I'm going to put it on a separate track. The reason I want to do that is because it's got a nice kind of windy sound. And there's a little kind of wind visual reference in the opening sequence. So I'm going to layer it underneath and I'm going to mix it later. So Atmos Environmental, I'm going to call that 1. And remember this little button that simply copies all the track functions. Here we are. I explained that very well. New track with duplicate settings. There we go. So I've created a new track. I'm going to list that as 2. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to trim it so it's a bit that doesn't really have. There we go. About there. Let's go to my fade tool, fade that up a little bit. Let's have that at a lower level. Let's see what that sounds like. It's a bit late. Let's bring that along there. Okay, so I can go up a little bit and I'm going to do a little fade out, quite a significant fade out here. That's a bit late still. Let's try that there. There we are. I get that little hint of wind. That's quite nice. Remember, I'm just track laying here, so we're not really mixing. Okay, so I'm going to chop it here. Scissors tool, chop there. That can go. And I'll do a little. Where's it? He comes through about here. Now we're going to have some Foley effect for him going through the trees. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Here we are. There we go. So I want the fade to kind of start around there, and I'm going to take that down like so. And then I'm going to go back to my my original sound effect that I recorded. And no, that's Birds of Woodland. That's the wrong one. Where's my? Ah, here we go. The one that I recorded this morning. and I'm going to, let's zoom in a bit so I can see, and I'm going to choose a busier part of it. But remember, we got that big field again now. We're not in the woods anymore, but we're sort of by the woods initially. So I'm going to start it off quite busy. And he's going to start off just as he comes through there. And I'm going to do a little crossfade, a little fade up. Let's see how that flows. What the hell is that sound? This is somebody... Oh, well, forget that idea. I'm just going to chop it. Somebody was obviously doing something or other when I wasn't listening in the back garden. It's definitely a kind of plainy vibe. Let's see. No, we can't use that, can we? That's Bryn chasing away a wood pigeon. Let's have that one. So I'm going to trim it all the way past Brinny. Let's drag it more here, zoom back out again. As probably becoming, you're becoming aware of, it's all about playing and listening, always listening. So let's give it another try. We can't have that. That's me. That's somebody moving. That might be me moving the microphone to a different location. I quite like that actually, but I'm just going to move it along a little bit. Yeah, those they're obviously the birds going to the feeder, and their wings sound quite close. I would be making notes of that because it's very hard to get bird wings fluttering, and I might use that later on. I might bring those sound in and isolate those fluttery sounds and bring them in at specific points. But I'm looking something for a little bit more, less dynamic. I quite like that echoey call. That's all right. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of an obsessive. Okay, I'm going to live with that. It's entirely possible I'm going to come back and try something entirely different. But for now, that's okay. So we'll just let it play for a bit. So we'll just trim that down. A little bit of a crossfade, not too much, because I want it to be quite a stark difference. I don't want it to be entirely abrupt, but I want it to be a stark difference between that and the jackdaws. So we'll may as well go back onto the other track. Let's get into it a little bit. So it's coming up there. So it'll be quite a quick fade. I'm going to zoom in a bit. It's always good to zoom in to get that extra resolution. No, not what I want to do. There we go. There we go. I don't know why it's done an exponential so much. There we go. Soften that. What's that like? It's a bit busy. Let's find it quiet a bit. Okay, I wanted to start a little bit. It's all it can get busier and busier as we go through, but I kind of wanted to start a little bit lighter than that. So I'm just going to delete that bit, and I'm just going to start off with a quieter bit. So actually, I can zoom out to there. We go. It gets very busy. Let's have a little listen to this. Actually, I'm going to chop that about here. What are you doing, Reese? Well, I'm going to have silence interspersed with occasional bits and pieces. So I'll just move these out of the way for a second. I can get rid of that, and I'm going to copy this. So I've highlighted it, Command C to copy. So I'm going to have a little bit of that, and then I'm going to crossfade to a bit more silence. Let's have a little bit of that. And then a little bit more silence. So it's not so busy. It was all a little bit busy and getting in the way a little bit. So I have no idea how this is going to sound. Here we go. But I still find it fun to find out. And we need all of this stuff. Let's have this last one here. And actually, I'll just have a bit more silence, because that's really, there we go. Here we go. Let's have a bit more. Why, Reese? We're inside now. Well, because we'll still hear a bit of bird song right up until the door slams. It has to be mixed. So there we go. There's the door slam. And so we'll have there's the slam. I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to do what we call a cheat fade, which is a fade so quick that you don't notice it, but what it does do is takes away edit impact, takes away that kind of sound. So it's a slight soften, though you won't, it's not perceptible to the human ear as anything other than an abrupt halt. So I've better listen to all of this. Let's go through the whole sequence. Let's take the level up and let's see what the whole thing sounds like. Well, I quite like the way those came in at that point. Need a reverb here, so we need a separate track of the sound being of the outdoor. Oh yeah. Okay, I like all of that. So I'm just going to go into that little window here. So I can work on the reverb inside. We'll have to create another track, but I'm going to create another one here because I want to see. Look at all the cuts here. So I'm just going to. So what have I got? What's this? Something and flies. Crickets and flies. By the way, if you position your cursor over the clip in the browse window, in the bin, you can see a little speaker. So that's all right. What about this? Starlings. Dogs. Okay, so I'm going to put a dog in. Here are the dogs, and I'm going to put the dog in. Let's have something. I've been doing this for so long. Part of me works on what the actual squiggles in the clips look like. I can sort of hear them. It's like, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen The Matrix, and that guy saying, looking at all the binary codes on green, dropping down, he sees, all I see now is a blonde, a brunette. That's kind of like me with this. It's a bit sad, really, but there we go. Okay, so I want the dog. Let's have the dog happening every now and again. So, and it's got to be very distant. And that gives a certain amount of kind of texture. So let's make that quite quiet. In fact, look how I've taken all these levels down. I'm going to take them up again, because what I'm doing now, I'm creating the cardinal sin of mixing to volume and not to level. Volume is the playback, how loud you put the TV on. the volume on the TV bears no resemblance to the recording levels that were recorded when that program was made. It just makes things louder. So this is a volume up here. I'm going to take the volume down, but I'm going to keep the levels high to gives me some mixing capability. But I will have that dog quiet, and I'm going to shove him right to one side. Let's have that dog. I want to emphasize. Here we go. And let's have. I want to emphasize his kind of in the real world. So there'll never be a dog barking when she is alone on camera. But there could well be. There we go. And I could be jumping from side to side to create the sense of movement and difference. Nice, too much of it, but I think that could work. Yeah, that's nice. It needs to be even quieter. I'm going to zoom out a bit. And these here, I like them, but there was too much of them. I'm not entirely sure. I want the dog barking, not when she's there, when he's arriving about there. So does he hear the dog bark? He's following her, but he could hear the dog bark. Oh no. Let's play again. Always soften the start of your clips, just in case there's to mitigate any editing impact. Okay. Right, I don't think I want anything else at the moment. I might be adding stuff like all those little wing flutters that I found on my recording. I might just be putting in at specific points in the graveyard, but I'll do that at the end when I'm just fine-tuning stuff and getting everything as cool and as sexy as I can. I think. Do you know, I think I'm going to create another track here, and I think I might use that. Wrong track, there we go. Underscoring, maybe continuing a little bit actually. quite quiet. Underscoring the field. See what that sounds like. Oh yeah, quite like that. Okay, I'm happy with all of that. So what I'm going to do... Oh, one last thing. Is I may as well put the river in. So I'm just going to relabel some of this. So I'm just going to call this environmental 3. This I'm going to call dogs. Or dog. The reason I'm a bit, OCD about relabeling stuff is because I could end up with not on this film, but on other films, I could end up with lots of tracks and lots of different sounds in different places. And so it helps if you can, be as prescriptive as possible with regards to how you title these. And also, these are all purple. So purple, remember we did the colour assignments. Purple are my atmoses. So I'm going to create yet another atmos track. So I'm going to duplicate this. And I want my river, which is the first thing that we had, small river. So we'll just click it and drag it, and let's trim it until she crosses. We do not hear the river. I've made a design decision. We do not hear the river when she crosses. We can have a special effect. But we do hear the river as soon as she's gone. We hear the river. And we continue to hear the river until he's there. Okay, let's have that. Let's have that kind of central. Let's have a little listen to this. Let's just do a little cheat fade. Okay, and let's have a little listen to this. Let's just see the big. Yeah, it's a bit clumsy at the minute. Let's work it in a bit. Doesn't work with it not him being there. It's got to come in exactly at the point that he comes in. So I'm going to move it. There. Okay, let's try that. We will then mix the river for perspective reasons. So it's much too loud now, so it's not working now, but it will. There we go. Yeah, it will work when it's been fully mixed. So I'm sorry to say that we're going to have to watch this all the way through again now. But I want to actually show you something. Can you imagine? This is a very simple film. Can you imagine how many soundtracks you're going to have with a complicated film? I'm talking about you third years in particular. A 10-minute film, you're going to have lots of tracks. So I'm going to show you a function called stack track. So I'm going to click on the first Atmos sound, and I'm going to press Shift and click on the last Atmos sound. So I've highlighted them all of these tracks. Then I'm going to go to track, and I'm going to select Create Stack Track. And it's basically a little subfolder, a folder stack. So I'm going to go create, and I'm just going to call that Atmos in capitals. The great thing about that is you've got an overall volume control, so you can fade everything up and down, so you don't have to use a bus, as we spoke about, and you can work individually on them. See, it opens them up and closes them down, and you can still add tracks there. So I'm gonna basically take that. I'm gonna move that out of the way up there. I can get rid of my dialogue. There is no dialogue. Oh, actually, no. Undo, delete that track. Girl giggle. That counts as dialogue. Maybe some breathing. So I might just go dialogue, sub vocal sounds. Sub vocal sounds are the sounds we make when we're not talking. Breathing, sneezing, kind of all of that kind of glottal stop kind of stuff. Okay, what are you going to do next, Reese? Well, I'm glad you asked. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this baby.